Separatists crushed, Alberta independence dream fades while Carney eyes global reshaping. Following the April 28, 2025 snap federal election, Mark Carney officially replaced Justin Trudeau as Canada's new Prime Minister after winning the Liberal leadership and leading his party to a narrow minority victory. This leadership shift marked a significant ideological realignment at the federal level, with Carney openly embracing globalist values and pursuing deeper cooperation with international institutions. However, while Ottawa leans into multilateralism and EU-style governance, provincial dynamics, particularly in Alberta, are exposing growing tensions. These frictions were placed under the microscope during Alberta's recent by-elections, which many saw as a litmus test for the province's independence movement and its broader dissatisfaction with federal power. In the deeply conservative riding of Old Stidsbury Three Hills, the by-election outcome confirmed the dominance of Premier Danielle Smith's United Conservative Party, UCP. Candidate Tara Sawyer secured a decisive 61% of the vote, reaffirming UCP's strength in the rural heartland. However, what garnered the most attention was not her victory, but the disappointing third-place finish of Cam Davies, leader of the Republican Party of Alberta, a separatist-leaning political newcomer. Despite early enthusiasm, Davies secured just 17% of the vote, trailing behind the NDP's Bev Trotter, who earned 20% despite limited campaigning in the region. For a riding often seen as a potential launching pad for the independence movement, the result was nothing short of a blow. The Republican Party of Alberta had framed the by-election as their breakthrough moment. Yet, the campaign failed to present a coherent and positive case for independence. Instead of inspiring a bold vision for Alberta's future, Davies spent most of his campaign attacking the UCP, blurring the lines between principled sovereignty and mere opposition politics. This muddled messaging likely alienated voters looking for substance over spite. Political commentator Wyatt Claypool, speaking on the Candace Malcolm Show, criticized the campaign's strategic missteps. He noted that branding also contributed to the party's identity crisis. Choosing the name, Republican, and adopting red campaign signs confused voters. Many associated the color with the federal Liberal Party or even with American Republican politics. In a province known for its deep skepticism of both, this miscalculation hurt rather than helped. Claypool argued that the Republican Party resembled a protest group more than a legitimate political force with electoral staying power. The damage wasn't limited to Old Stidsbury Three Hills. The Republican Party of Alberta also fielded candidates in two Edmonton ridings, Ellerslie and Strathcona. In both, the results were abysmal. In Edmonton-Strathcona, newly elected NDP leader Naheed Nenshi dominated with an overwhelming 82% of the vote, while the Republican candidate received just 7%. Edmonton-Ellerslie followed a similar pattern. The NDP secured 50%, the UCP 38%, and the Republicans trailed with a meager 3%. Despite putting boots on the ground and trying to mobilize support, Davies' party failed to register as a viable option in either race. These results signal not only a lack of momentum but also a crisis of confidence within the separatist movement. For years, political observers speculated that Alberta's independence push was just one charismatic leader away from becoming a major force. But the by-election performance suggests that such a figure has yet to emerge. The inability to win even a single poll within their most favorable riding suggests the movement is less of a political wave and more of an echo chamber. The narrative that a 17% showing is a strong start is being pushed by party loyalists, but few outside the movement are convinced. Premier Danielle Smith, meanwhile, likely viewed the by-election outcomes as a quiet validation of her strategy. Although she distances herself from outright separatism, Smith has shown sympathy for provincial sovereignty, including reforms to Alberta's Citizens Initiative Act that lower the threshold for triggering referendums. These moves were seen by some as a way of keeping separatist sentiments within her party from boiling over. The Republican Party's weak showing now gives Smith more room to lead without facing credible threats from the political right. The UCP's continued dominance, even in the face of federal Liberal rule, suggests she retains the confidence of Alberta's conservative base. While Alberta's independence dream falters, Prime Minister Mark Carney is aggressively repositioning Canada on the world stage. In recent public appearances, Carney has spoken glowingly of the European Union, calling Canada the most European of the non-European countries. He has signaled an intent to align Canadian governance more closely with EU-style frameworks, emphasizing climate action, sustainable development goals, and multilateral cooperation. For Carney, the future of Canada lies not in sovereignty or national self-determination, but in collective global action. To his critics, however, this vision is deeply troubling. Candace Malcolm, founder of True North and host of The Candace Malcolm Show, argues that Carney's direction is being imposed without meaningful debate or electoral mandate. The pivot toward internationalism is seen as tone-deaf to regional concerns, especially in provinces like Alberta, where voters increasingly feel alienated from Ottawa's agenda. Malcolm and others warn that Canada risks losing its national identity by surrendering too much to transnational bureaucracies that are unaccountable to Canadian voters. Former Canadian Alliance leader Stockwell Day echoed these concerns, accusing Carney of rapidly shifting Canada's priorities toward Europe without public discourse. Critics argue that EU policies, known for heavy regulation, top-down mandates, and weak free speech protections, are at odds with the Canadian tradition of individual liberty and provincial autonomy. Carney's alignment with such models has stirred fears that he's building a government not for the average Canadian, but for global elites, green technocrats, and international institutions. While Carney's defenders argue that Canada's return to the global stage is restoring its international credibility, skeptics question whether this global reshaping reflects the will of the electorate or simply the personal ambitions of a prime minister more at home in Brussels than Brandon. In a time of inflation, housing stress, and strained healthcare systems, the Liberal government's focus on global conferences and green commitments can appear out of touch to struggling Canadians. The question remains, who is Ottawa listening to? The contrast between the fading separatist surge in Alberta and Carney's full-throttle globalism illustrates a growing national divide. On one side stands a federal government focused on international cooperation and progressive regulation. On the other are provinces demanding more autonomy, economic control, and cultural respect. Alberta's Republican movement may have stumbled, but the discontent it sought to channel has not disappeared. It now simmers under the surface, awaiting a leader and a clearer message. Ultimately, the recent by-elections were not just a test of local candidates, but a window into the broader tension defining Canadian politics in 2025. Alberta's separatist moment has weakened, for now, but the pressures that gave rise to it, regional alienation, distrust of Ottawa, and concerns over national identity, remain unresolved. Meanwhile, Mark Carney moves swiftly on the world stage, redrawing Canada's role without fully convincing Canadians he has the mandate to do so. Whether the country embraces this direction or resists, it will shape the next chapter in the national story.